All right. Are you ready for the silliest, sweetest, saddest, but most importantly, dumbest story you have ever heard in your life?
In my life?
In your life.
Wow. All this time podcasting, and you're telling me all those other stories don't even compare
Yes.
to this one.
This is peak liberal white person bullshit on just an it is just strap in. This is the thing. Let me tell you about my week,
Let me get the
or at least
stats
part
on.
of my week. So Tuesday, I think. It doesn't really matter, but I think it was last Tuesday. I'm up in the morning and my cat Addie is being weird. More than usual. In particular, we have kind of a pile of crap in the living room. You've seen it before. It's much smaller than the last time you saw it, but it's still there. And he's like sticking his face into part of it. He keeps looking into this thing, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" And then he looks at me and he looks really guilty, but then he goes back to it. Like, what? And I'm like, "It's probably a mouse. Like, does he hunts mice? We get mice is the thing." As I've mentioned before, sometimes he brings them into the bed live. Don't love that. Sometimes you bring them into bed dead. Don't love that either, but better than live. But whatever. Like, it's probably a mouse. Maybe we'll catch it. Whatever. It's fine. I move on with my life. Later that day in the morning, I think I am walking through the room, and right in front of on the floor where that hole was are three dead baby mice.
Mm.
Like, pretty small. Like, they aren't just like pink, but they're like still like sort of in a kidney bean fetal thing going,
Hmm.
just dead. And I'm like, and just three of them like positioned around. And I'm like, the fuck? And I'm like, whatever. So I took a picture and I texted Trish and I'm like, Eddie was messing around this morning and look what I found out. She's like, huh? She's like, I mean, I guess good on him. I mean, he got the mice, whatever. That's fine. Great. I'm like, yeah. All right, I'm gonna get rid of him. So then I get a paper towel, I go and pick them up, and they start moving and squeaking.
Oh no.
And I'm like, fuck! And I panic. And I just take them and I go outside to the flower bed and I just like shake the paper towel and just drop them. And I look and they're just in the grass in the flower bed because the flower bed is not well weeded. Um, and one was like hanging on a blade of grass and they're all just like, and I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I
Oh
don't, this was
no.
terrible. And I go back
Yeah.
inside and I start texting Trish. Well, I try to call Trish, she's not answering. So I'm texting her. And this apparently is the one time ever she's not got her phone on her. And I'm freaking the fuck out. And I'm just like, this is, and I don't know. I put them outside and it feels weird because they're, I mean, they're little babies, but should I don't think I can kill them. But like, it seems bad. I don't know what to do. And luckily, as I'm just babbling to her in this, she finally comes back to her phone. She's like, "Go get him. Find a little box and like a cloth or something, and put him in there, and we'll look into it." I'm like, okay. So I got out there with the cloth and I grabbed him, and I had a hell of a time with that. I don't think I helped. So like it was rough getting him out, and one of them I dropped and he fell further, and I'm like, I don't know. But I get three of them, and they're in the thing, and one of them's kind of bloodied, and I don't know if I did it or if Addie did it or what. But I'm like, okay. I sit down and I'm like, I'm gonna take a nap because there's nothing else for me to do right now,
Yeah.
and this is a technique. I often take a nap to ease my anxiety. It is a good way to do that.
Sure.
Those of you listening at that, I also know it is a sign for a symptom of depression, and I do try and pay attention to how often am I doing it and why am I doing and stuff like that. But in general, the vices I use to deal with my anxiety, napping is the least problematic. So I'm like, I'm gonna go take a nap. So I guess it's not a great nap. I'm kind of tossing and turning because I don't know. Anyway, about an hour later, so it's about 12:30. Trish is home, and she's not supposed to be.
Mm.
Like, this was one of the rare times where she actually took the car to work,
Oh.
and so she's home. So it turns out Trish started researching this stuff, and Like, what do we do about this? And the internet is very, very open about like they're gonna die. Like that's what they do. They're baby mice. They die.
Yeah.
Especially without a mom, they're gonna die.
Yeah.
But a few places are like, here's things you can try, which are some crazy ones. Like find your local wildlife rehabilitation place and see if they have a mouse that's nursing and maybe she'll. And we're all like, no, they're not. They're not gonna. The only reason they will take your baby mouse is if they're like, yeah, I'm rehabilitating something else that eats those, so bring them over. So like, this
Correct.
is not. And I was just like, but Trish found a bunch of stuff. She found like they're too small. All the various baby bottles and syringes for small animals and stuff, not small enough for a baby mouse mouth. Baby mouse mouth is this small. My
Really
fingers are
small.
tight, pushed together, but yeah. But so she goes to the store, and they say like if you can't, you use a paintbrush like a little one, and you like dip it in some stuff and you do it, and like get some Pedialyte so they have electrolytes, and then also kitten milk replacer,
Mm.
which is a thing that exists. So anyway, Trish decides fuck work. She goes to the store and spends like $30 on these mice that are gonna die just instantly. Including buying an entire poster paint set because she couldn't get an individual brush. And so she comes home and you have to keep them warm. So she takes one of my bandanas and she puts rice in it and she microwaves it. And then she puts it, we get a cardboard box and this blanket and she puts them on the top and it put them in there. By the time she gets home, one of them's dead. The bloody
Mm.
one, already dead. And then she found a fourth one in the living room, but it was like in two pieces. It was dead.
Mm.
So we're down to two. And I wake up and she's like trying to figure out how to make this work. We're doing the paper and they don't poop themselves. So you got to say she bought Q-tips and you have to dip them in warm water and like rub on their anuses to get them to poop. It's like baby cats are similar. Like
Mm.
what it is the mother licks them to do it, but we're not doing that. So we're doing this and we're just like, oh my god. And we're like, this is so stupid. They're gonna die. Um, and then there's the real fun thing. You gotta feed them every 2 hours.
Every 2 hours. Wow.
Yes. For we eventually via certain things like are their eyes open, are their ears open, like, things like this, eventually figure out we think they're about 3 days old.
Mm.
They don't even start on solid food for 11 days. And they're not weaned for about 3 weeks.
Mm.
Trish found another place on the internet that said you can feed them every 3 hours. So what happened is during the day, Trish would feed them and again wipe their butts every 2 hours, and then I would stay up until midnight and feed them and wipe their butts, and then I would set an alarm for 3 a.m., do it again, set an alarm for 6 a.m., do it again, and then we wake up at 7:30 and repeat the cycle. Although there was a rule because sometimes Trish doesn't sleep all through the night, and so if the alarm goes off and she's like awake, I'm like, you go do it. So we're doing this, and there's two of them still alive. Not for long. Obviously, we're like they're definitely gonna die. One of them has a owie on its head that I don't know what it came from. Maybe from Addie, maybe from me. I don't know. It's got a little owie, but it's healing up. And another one has an owie on its back. So by Wednesday morning, Trish is like, we can't name them because they're gonna die. But I have given them placeholder names. They are head and butt. And the reason they are this is because it is a thing in Trish's family. my brother-in-law had a cat that he used to scratch its head and scratch its up button at the same time. And while he do it, he'd chant head and butt, head and butt. And it was just a joke, and the cat liked it. And so it sort of is a family joke. And one of these cats has an owie on his head, and one has his up. So it's head and butt. So um Trish stayed home from work on Wednesday because I was like, I need your help with this. And I also at some point I'm like, they're never going back out into the wild. They're either dying or we're buying a terrarium and for the next 1 to 2 years we just have pet mice. And it's so dumb. We're like, what are we doing? And then Trish finds online a thing that are syringes to feed baby birds that look like they might be small enough. And so she spends another $10 to $20 to have it rush shipped. So we've spent like $50 on these mice. And every 2 hours in the day and every 3 hours at night, we're taking care of them. And it's real hard to get them to eat. They are not into it, but sometimes they are into it. I don't know, but they are growing a bit. And like at one point on Wednesday at 3, or I guess Thursday, technically, 3 a.m., like they're finally reaching out and like grabbing a hold of the thing to hold it. And I'm like, oh, but like it's still a pain in the butt. And I'm like, this is such a bad idea. Like, whatever. We eventually switched. I have this thing, it's like a tube sock full of rice that's
Mhm.
meant for like your neck or whatever, but it's much better. So we would microwave this, and we ended up with a whole system where spoiler alert that I'm showing you the thing. But anyway, we had a whole system where you take out, you move them over, you take the thing out, you microwave it, and meanwhile you feed one and you put it in the new spot. There's a whole deal. And middle of the night, 3 a.m. Thursday morning, technically, I feed him, go to sleep. 6 a.m. Trish is awake, and I'm like, you go do it. And she comes back a little while later, and she's like, Bud is dead.
Hmm.
Oh. Butt had been a little more lethargic than head, so it's like, well, we knew it was sad, but we knew this was gonna happen. And then Trish goes to work on Thursday, and I'm awake. And at 9 o'clock, I go to do the feeding for the thing, and I appear to have killed Head. In that Head was alive and squirming when I started feeding him, and at a certain point in the feeding, stopped moving. I believe I may have accidentally made him aspirate
Hmm.
because I was giving him the food and he would eat it, but then it would like come back out, and
Oh.
eventually he just stopped. I don't know, but I'm like, I can't even cope. I put him back in the box, and when Trish came home later, I was like, I think Head is dead. I think I killed him. Go look, Head is dead.
Hmm.
So now they're gone. So it was basically 48 hours taking care of baby mice that we knew were going to die and spending like $50 on them for them to die. And the whole time I'm like, I cannot rational, like, I have killed non-baby mice with my bare hands. I eat meat regularly. Like the number of animals I am fine with being killed on my behalf or killing myself is huge. And so one of the most disposable of all the mammals, we spent money and fought tooth and nail knowing it wouldn't work to keep them going. It was, and even after it was done, we were like, we're sad, but man, our weekend is going to be so much easier. Just instantly, I'm like, I get to sleep through the night. This is going to be awesome. It was the most ridiculous thing. And it's because they're super cute. And this is the thing, there is a charity. I don't remember what it's called, but there's a charity out there specifically to save endangered animals that are ugly because nobody wants to save the ugly ones. The only one I can remember is the blobfish. But there are a whole bunch of them. They're just not attractive animals, so nobody gives a shit about saving them. So it's a charity designed specifically to save the non-cute ones. And I understand, but they were so cute. They were, especially as they were getting a little bigger. The last feeding I did, I think they were starting to get teeth because they would like their mouth would like hook a little bit on the thing. It was so cute. But they were always going to die, and we knew they were always going to die. And we spent a lot of money and time and effort and emotional effort, and they did die because, of course, they died. They were never not going to die. The hell. So, yeah, I was an exciting couple days. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Magical Talking Hat podcast, the only podcast in the world. It's trying to save some stupid baby mice named Head and Butt. We didn't even name the other ones. I'm Tony.
And I'm William, and this is episode 691. It's a beautiful story, really.
I like the story. It is so many things. Like I said, I think it is a very sweet story. I think it's a very silly story. I think it's a very sad story. But I do think first and foremost, it's the dumbest fucking thing. I know why I did it, but I also don't know why I did it. And I'm also like sad with the outcome, but also not surprised. But like we spent good money on what we knew was not gonna work. I don't know what the hell we're gonna do with the paint set. We don't pay. It's like a Crayola, like washable paints. I don't know what that is. I think I've got it all clean because also it took over our kitchen because they were on the washer because that's a place the cats don't go. And then there were the Q-tips. And just when I think I've got it all cleaned up, I open the fridge. I'm like, oh, look, it's a little baby bottle we had of the thing. Or, oh, look, there's the syringe and the little thing of the kitten. We were hopefully going to give to like an animal shelter if they'll take it open, the kitten formula replacer. But like, big ass bottle of unflavored Pedialyte, and Trisha's like, we just got to throw it away. Like nobody's gonna take an opened bottle of unflavored Pedialyte. So just so much time and effort on such a it has a vaguely meditative aspect to it. Like it's sort of zen of putting all this effort into a pointless task.
Well, okay. I mean, you didn't really know if it was pointless. I mean,
No, but
highly likely it was
yes,
pointless.
overwhelmingly likely.
But it's kind of human nature to, to think, but if there's even a little chance, I've got to try. Compassion,
There have
hope,
been other animals
optimism.
that I wasn't that way about.
No, I
Some of it's
know.
because it's a baby. Some of it's very much because it's
Oh,
a
I'm
baby.
sure. I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure.
And they were so freaking adorable. And just like they never really got bigger than like the first segment of my finger.
Yeah.
Like they were just so tiny. And oh, when they first were there and they were just sort of lying in the thing, we hadn't worked out the whole detail yet. I kept looking in the box and I was like, are they dead? I don't know. And so what I'd do is I would blow on them and they'd be like, ah, and I'm like, yeah, they're still alive.
It's amazing what kind of sacrifices we are suddenly willing to make in situations like that. Like if you had never had this experience, but you've heard someone else having it, you might think, yeah, I would never do that. But under the right conditions, we can be surprised what kinds of things we would do.
Some of the people I've told this story to are like, well, I think my friend Stacy said it best. She's like, this is ridiculous, and I would have done the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I have yet to tell her. I see her on Wednesday. Maybe I should. I have yet to tell her that they're dead, but she is aware that that was the far most likely outcome. But we were sitting like with the teeth. I was like, we're probably only a few days away from having to figure something out besides a cardboard box. Glad we didn't do that. I don't know
So
how much a terrarium costs these days.
what would it have been like? Can you imagine what it would have been like if, they survived? And like you said, now they're not going to die, except but they'll probably live a full lifespan of a normal mouse. You've talked
which is
about the
like a
thing.
year,
Yeah,
maybe two.
you've talked about the things you would have to do, terrarium and stuff. But how would you have felt if you'd succeeded in helping them survive to that age?
I mean, probably pretty cool.
Yeah.
Trish has recently said, which surprised me, but she didn't want to trust the neighbor kid who watches our cats. But she's like, I would have for the Virginia Beach trip. She's like, I would have brought him. Mom would have been so pissed. I'm like, she would have, but that would have been
Yeah.
hilarious.
That's a unique relationship with another creature when you feel like you've not just like brought in a kitten home, and you feed it and you take care of it, but you've like pulled it back from the brink of death and destruction. That's a unique kind of connection you have with that creature.
I'm sure it would be. I'll have to find out someday. Didn't do it this time.
But I admire the effort. I think that was because see, look, I grew up on a farm. I would not have tried. I wouldn't have.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It just wouldn't have. The culture I come from just doesn't think like that when it comes to baby mice. That again, I would be convinced this is just going to be a waste of time and money, and probably they'll die sooner and more mercifully or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm going to tell you, I wouldn't have done it, but I totally admire that you did. I totally do. I think that's wonderful.
Well, and I wouldn't have had the guts to kill him. So I just would have left them somewhere and they
Yeah.
would have died probably. Well, I mean, not that they died well this time. Um,
Yeah.
I think I am glad I did it in a way because it's an interesting story. But bonkers. Just bonkers.
Well, I'm glad you did it. I think it's pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool. It's not just a good story. I think it speaks well of you and Trish that you would do that.
Did I say my name was Tony? Did you say your name was William?
Yeah.
What episode number is this?
691.
All right. Did you say that before?
Pretty sure.
All right.
You didn't explain how everything works. You didn't do that.
For those of you just joining us, we kill mice slowly and then talk about it.
No, I didn't.
Our show. We have a hat. It's magical in that it has its own email address, themagicaltalkinghat@gmail.com. And sometimes people write emails to it, themagicaltalkinghat@gmail.com, with whatever the crap they want us to talk about, be it mouse murder or other. Those are the two categories. Or things that they just want to say and they want us to amplify to our literal twos of listeners. This powerful platform we have. And the hat magically forwards the emails to us and we read them when we talk about them. And that's it. But once again, we have none. So mostly it's the mouse murder.
Wasn't murder. You tried to help him.
You can do both.
I don't think it's your fault the last one died. It was probably having internal issues.
Ugh.
Whatever happened to the mom, by the way?
Oh, who knows? Actually, quite possibly she's still around, or she died last night and we don't know where the body is.
Last night.
Addie went apeshit in the bed last night and like ran across the bed and ran under the bed and then took up like I think he was chasing a mice and or had brought a mouse into the bed and then ran off with it. We have seen no signs, but he was doing crazy shit that we associate with him going after mice. So we don't know. But
how many pups do mice typically have?
I don't know. This one had at least 4.
Oh.
So how's your week been?
Not as interesting as that. I don't know how I follow that. That's pretty cool. Let's see. We watched Godzilla -1.
Oh yeah, because
Yeah.
that's on
No,
I don't
Netflix.
know. Someplace I was just browsing and I saw it, and we were curious.
Oh, it's
Have,
really good.
have you watched the newest Godzilla King Kong?
No, I want to. I mean,
Oh my god!
I'm sure it's not like very good or anything, but it'll be fun
I
to
mean,
watch
you know
probably.
how the first Godzilla versus King Kong was like super ridiculous?
Yeah.
Based on the pitch meeting I saw, they have topped themselves.
I mean, like one criticism I heard of the Godzilla versus Kong movie was like it was like 30 minutes of watching a kid take their toys and bang them together. But I mean, I like that. So
No.
I think
I
that's
think you'll enjoy it.
I think that's
It's
fun.
just ridiculous.
But that said, I prefer. I know you weren't that impressed with it, but like the 1954 Godzilla. I like that, and
Yeah.
this is in a similar kind of vein where it's not just a big monster destroying things or two monsters. It's like there's a story. There are human beings in it that you are interested in and you
There's
care about.
subtext. There's,
None, it, Godzilla minus one is really good film craft. I mean, really, really good. If you find the whole kaiju thing like silly or uninteresting, maybe that will be a distraction and you won't like it. But I just thought it was really, really good. Um, but yeah, I also enjoy the kaiju movies where it's just a kid banging their toys. I enjoy that. I think that's fun. I mean,
I
I wish they were better. I mean, I love good film craft, so I wish they were better, but they don't have to be. I can enjoy them, which is fine.
that itch was scratched for me with Pacific Rim, which I
Mm.
went and saw in the theater in 3D by myself.
Oh.
And what I have discovered is that itch desperately needed to be scratched one time, and it
I
has
thought,
never been an
you know what
issue
I thought
ever again.
what I thought would scratch that itch was the Transformers movies, but they didn't. I could not get into the Transformers movies at all. I hoped they would
The
be kind of
very
like that,
first
but
one we went and saw, and it did something. There was something because I played with Transformers a lot as
yeah,
kids.
sure, sure.
Um, and there was something to that. I am kind of over seeing my childhood things or like cartoon things brought to life for Watchmen and all. I've been burned too many times,
Mm.
and also at the older I get, the more I'm like, I liked the thing I liked. You don't need to bring it back and give me a worse version or reminder of it. Like, I
Right.
just like the thing, and now I want a different thing. There's something I was just talking last night with the neighbors. Something is being rebooted that I really liked. I can't remember what it is, but and they're like, that'll be cool. I'm like, yeah, or just the original is fine. I can't remember what it was. It's not Beetlejuice because I don't like Beetlejuice, but
Well, I mean, I saw the Monarch TV show that I really liked. I thought it was actually
yeah.
very, very good. So it's like, yeah, I can get into this. But
I feel like that covered some new territory though, at least.
yeah,
That's not just nostalgia as opposed to most of the
but
Godzilla.
what Godzilla minus one and for me the original Godzilla both do is they show how it and I guess the TV show I think also does this a little bit is they show how it doesn't just have to be CGI and big giant monsters fighting each other. It can be some compelling story. There's some interesting metaphors, that what you can work with. It can be pretty powerful stuff, really, if it's told the right way. And so I am a little disappointed that the movies don't do a better job of that, but they're just trying to make, money or whatever. So they're doing what they think is going to bring the audiences in. But look at how well Godzilla minus one did in every way. So I mean, there is a pretty good audience for to take that kind of genre and do some really compelling, interesting, deeply human and good character driven storytelling with it. You can do it. I wish they did
There
it
is
more.
an argument that we are hitting a we're taking the downturn in the giant bloated budget effects heavy movies right now. Not only that people are getting a little tired of them, but also they're just not recouping the money the same way.
Yeah.
Some of them do. You for every bad one, you got an Avatar or whatever that is huge, but there are so many movies that are costing 100 million, 150, 200 million and not making any profit.
Right. None at all.
And this is a thing. I think I'm doubling down on shitty low budget movies overall because I'm kind of tired of the big effects heavy things.
Hmm.
Just full stop. I'm like whatever. Um, but two, I'm so tired of auteurs. I'm so tired of a movie that I'm like, this is this one person's vision and absolutely nothing else. And so if coincidentally I'm into that vision, I'll like it. But if I'm not in the same brain as that guy, it's always a guy, I don't give a shit. Because I just watched one of those videos the other day about movies that are actually about something else, like that are metaphors for things. And some of them are very obvious and some of them aren't. And like they had Inception on there and how Inception is actually really about the process of filmmaking. And Nolan even said he's like, I didn't consciously do that, but I think that it is. And I'm watching all these and I'm like, I'm just so tired of Christopher Nolan and Denis Villeneuve and Aronofsky and Kubrick, which he's dead, so I guess it's less of a thing, and Polanski. And I'm just like, th- these guys are just doing private shit large for every, and I'm like, I don't Scorsese. I'm sick of Scorsese. Like, I don't like. I'm tired of this handful of white men getting hundreds of millions of dollars to either do the same thing they've always done, which I'm like, I've already seen your shit, whatever, or to do shit like with no consideration for it being consumed. To go full on, like, I'm going to make a movie. I don't care if you understand it at all. Tenet is probably one of the worst things humanity has ever done. And I say that fully having not seen it. That was a movie designed to be incomprehensible. I have yet to hear of anyone personally or professionally who liked it. I've heard some people say like there are interesting aspects to it, but nobody who's like, yeah, I like that movie. Like, I'm so tired of auteurs. I'm so tired of and it's very much like the big ones because you got a new person who's got a vision for a movie and they've never made a movie and they want to do it. I'm excited to see that. What have you got to say? Maybe it's something new. Maybe it's something interesting. But every great filmmaker out there, I kind of don't need to ever see any of their stuff anymore. And so when you combine, I'm sick of the big budget stuff and I'm sick of our tours. All I've got left is like low budget gonzo filmmaking. And most of it is crap, although still entertaining in a lot of cases. But every once in a while, it's like, oh, this was really interesting. This
Well,
was this was really doing something.
right. One of the biggest differences between, if we can talk about there being maybe not good and bad art, but art that's going to be broadly compelling versus art that's just not, it's discipline. And time after time after time, when I see a project fail, especially in film, it's clear that there wasn't budgetary discipline, there wasn't storytelling discipline, there wasn't directorial discipline, and it ends up being a mess. And one of the problems with the whole auteur thing is many times they're given carte blanche and then they have no discipline. And so
Precise.
what they make might be recognizable as their thing, but that doesn't have value by itself, artistic value by itself. I mean, good for you for having a signature style, but what else? And you've got to have discipline. And so
And but this should be very clear. This is my personal aesthetic choices because again, I haven't seen them, but people are saying The Irishman, Killers of the Flower Moon, Scorsese's best work ever. And maybe it's true. I could not have less interest in seeing or seeing anything Scorsese does at this point.
Yeah.
But especially Nolan. Oh my God. I haven't. I'm so tired of Christopher Nolan.
We also started watching the Mad Max movies.
Oh
Because
yeah. Oh yeah.
You talked about. I hadn't seen any of them at all.
Jordan Breeding you'd seen Fury Road.
Oh yeah, that one.
Yeah. Jordan Breeding just did a thing on the whole series, including the new one. So I was watching that recently. All right. So which ones have you seen?
All of them, but the new Furiosa movie.
Oh, okay. So you did the whole bit. All right. You started watching them. So
and we watched Fury Road again. So this is the second time I've seen it. Yeah.
Lay this on me. I am very excited to hear. Talk me through the whole process. We have not watched Road Warrior, at least. We both think we might have seen it like 20, 30 years ago, but we don't really remember it. But we haven't seen that one recently at all.
Okay, so the first film, to me, a lot of the problems with it, I've seen those problems in other 70s movies. These weird disjointed scenes, like what was that scene for? I've seen that in 70s movies 1,000 times. And I think I know what they were trying to do with that film. I think it was supposed to be like almost like a spaghetti Western, except set in modern day Australia, but it couldn't be modern day because they were going to have this certain kind of police force that didn't really exist in modern day Australia. So it had to be in the near future. It was just a mess. And there's no real reason for anyone to watch it, I don't think. Like if you're interested in Mad Max.
It's literally listed on major lists of like the best movies of all time. Like I said, it had the world's record for the most profitable movie for 20 years.
Yeah. And if it's like that, like, oh, I want to watch Citizen Kane, I want to watch Godfather. Sure. But if you're interested in the Mad Max franchise, there's not really any reason to watch it.
Oh no. And I think in the general public, most people are like, Mad Max starts with Road Warrior.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, it straight up wasn't good.
No.
I'm very confused why the world thought it was good. I mean, again, George Miller, and people say George Miller's an amazing director, whatever. I don't really have an opinion on that. The practical stunt work in the Mad Max films is amazing.
Sure.
But that's such a like I would never like call a movie amazing for that by itself. But even in Mad Max, it's quite cool.
No, right. So of course some of it is that in terms of shooting, editing, and everything else, those types of stunts they're doing are incredibly difficult, right? I mean, you're blowing.
People fucking get hurt on every single Mad Max movie.
People get hurt
real bad.
You're blowing things up. You didn't get the shot. Now you have to blow that. You're right. You've got to have another. I mean, it is so hard to shoot those specific kinds of things from a whole bunch of angles and to cut it together and editing. It is very challenging, and I'll give them that. I thought the second movie was really good. I really liked it a lot.
I would argue it. I mean, Fury Road, it became a whole new thing. But of the originals, I would say most people think Road Warrior is the best.
Very good movie to me. I mean, if you like that kind of thing, again, if you're not gonna be into post-apocalyptic stuff, you probably won't like it. But for that kind of thing, really quite good. And I would say the same for Thunderdome too. I thought
Thunderdome is the silliest.
It is, but it's also pretty well crafted, and there's some great scenes in it. And
I find Thunderdome extremely entertaining. I find Thunderdome to be an awesome movie. I don't know that I would ever. I love it. I don't know that I would say it is a good movie.
Well, I thought it was,
but I have a hell of a time with it. I've seen it many times, and I don't ever regret. Like but help me out with this. Road Warrior. Mm-hmm. There's a dude with a gyrocopter.
Mm-hmm.
He ends that movie being the new leader of the peoples or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond Thunderdome, there's a dude with a little boy, and they rob Mad Max, and later they have it's the same dude.
It is.
There is no acknowledgement.
I'm not sure
there's no like recognizing each other.
right.
There's no
I'm
mention
not.
of how did you get here.
I'm not sure it's supposed to be the same character. Like his teeth are different. Lots of things are different.
But he's very like
And he
they
flies a
didn't change
plane and
him enough that
everything.
I didn't obviously know that was the same guy. And yeah, and he flies like the
Yeah.
other guy
Yeah.
flies. He's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
flying
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. But
So
yeah,
weird.
no acknowledgement.
Very strange. Anyway,
Yeah, it's very weird. But no, I thought Tina Turner was like freaking amazing in it. Wow. Like I'm really shocked she didn't do more stuff because I thought she was really good.
yeah.
I mean,
I
very
mean, they sort of
convincing.
lent into it. She didn't have a particularly huge part,
Yeah, but you
but
believed it.
she made a meal of it
And
without a doubt.
and this is part of what I like about it and why I think it's first of all, the design and the direction and the editing in that movie is even more impressive than the movie before it. And everybody was convincing in these perfectly ridiculous roles. Everybody. So I mean, I thought it was actually quite good.
Also, it was the start of a whole new trope. To my mind, that was the first instance of feral Australian children, which is a thing. They show up in every bit of sci-fi and everything. I remember seeing them in Farscape. Like feral Australian children are a thing.
So then we watched Fury Road a second time, and I expected I would feel differently about it. One, because I had the context of watching the other Mad Max movies, and two,
Yeah.
because I think I had very specific expectations when I watched it the first time that it just didn't meet. So I thought, okay, so now I'm just going to be thinking, okay, Mad Max. I just saw these like the day before and the next day, so that's a palate cleanser. I should be able to kind of enjoy this movie, and I did like it a lot better the second time, although I feel like they sacrificed some heart for more car stuff.
I would
um,
agree. And
it,
that is the thing. I was trying to explain to somebody the other day about Fury Road. I'm like, it has the best practical vehicular stunt work you will ever see.
Absolutely, it does.
If you are not interested in that, there is basically no reason to see it.
Which is
But
sad.
it's impressive
Yeah.
that like it is if you're like, well, what does the best of the best in that category look like? Watch this.
Right. And that's too bad because the other two films did have character and human elements in them.
Yeah.
In them that sort of pulled you in and made you care a little bit more about what was going on. But yeah, and there were things I didn't even remember from seeing it before. So I liked it a lot more the second time. And if they make
now
another
you
one,
can appreciate the weird fact. Toe Cutter from Mad Max is the same actor as Immortan Joe.
mm, mm.
That's weird.
Well, another thing I
Not the
didn't
same
know.
character. Also, that dude's dead now. But yeah, same actor. How weird is that?
It's also I didn't know that most of those characters in that place and that character were all based on some comic book developed material.
Oh,
So
really? I didn't know
yeah,
that.
I didn't know that either. And that kind of helped me understand because in some ways you're
It
sort of
does have a
thrown
sense of being a bigger world that they're not telling us about.
right. You feel like you're thrown in. And it's like you just feel like there's something they're not telling you, and there kind of is because this was in the comic books. But if you read the comic books, you'd probably think, "Oh wow, there's this place and there's that person," right? And there was some over the top stuff that I just always like the guitar player.
Oh yeah, no, he's I forget. He has a very specific name and it's ridiculous.
I couldn't get into
Like
that at all.
Doof Master or
I
it's
mean,
something weird.
I just rolled my eyes every time. It's like, this is dumb. This was a bad idea, you guys. You shouldn't have done this.
It was so awesome.
But I mean, I'd watch another one. I mean, I felt like what Tom Hardy did with the character was different and different in ways that I didn't prefer, but it worked out in the end. I thought I'd watch another one with him in it.
There is an implication, and Fury Road actually really brings it home, that Mad Max isn't a single dude. That Mad Max is just an idea or a legend or an archetype, which makes sense actually because the opening of Fury Road contradicts the shit out of the canon
kind of
for no fucking reason.
Yeah.
Same dude made both of them.
Yeah. Well, and he's made so much. Like he made Babe and
Yeah.
Babe in the City or something, like 2 Babe movies.
Yeah. They made
Uh,
jokes about how Beyond Thunderdome got him into pigs, and so
because
then
of
he
the
did that.
pigs.
Yeah.
But I
Also,
mean,
Thunderdome is far and away the most quotable of them.
pretty quotable.
Every like there when I showed it to Trish, there were like half a dozen lines that she knew and she didn't know that's where it was from. Who Run Bartertown,
2 men enter, one
2 men
man
enter,
leaves.
1 man leave, Busted Deal, Face the Wheel, Walker, all that shit. No, I love Beyond Thunderdome. I genuinely think it is not a great movie, but I love it. It's such a good time.
By the way, I'm completely behind legal systems consisting completely of little pithy sayings.
Absolutely.
I think all legal systems should,
It
and
gets
some
it
of them,
gets a little Brave New World there, but yeah, yeah.
some of them can rhyme. That's
Hey,
fine.
if the glove don't fit, you must acquit. This is the same deal. We love that stuff. From what I
Oh my
can tell,
gosh, that's hilarious.
Furiosa, a Mad Max saga story face, whatever, is just a slightly worse Fury Road. It
That's too
appears.
bad. I like the
Not
formula of,
very similar, but like I think they do just a teeny bit more CG in a way that it's every stunt thing is not quite as impressive. The story hits similar beats in places, but yeah, it sounds like it's like Fury Road, but just tired. Sophomore Fury Road, if you will.
well, I think I like, so as I was saying before, when I saw the first movie, which isn't like post-apocalyptic or whatever, I recognized it
I
as,
I could have sworn to you that movie ends with a nuclear apocalypse. That literally the last thing that happens is the bombs go off. And I
oh,
watched it, and none of that happened. There was no
no.
apocalypse in Mad Max.
But I got the impression the creator was going for like almost a spaghetti Western kind of thing. So then what he does is he sets it in a post-apocalyptic world, and it's still a old-time Western formula, right? The drifter comes upon an innocent community that's being harassed by bandits and helps, and it actually that's the Seven Samurai kind of formula too. And he helps them out. That happens in Mad Max 2. That happens in Thunderdome in a way. That's the kind of thing the heart they kind of lose in the second one, but sort of though, right? Because you've got Furiosa and you've got the women that he's trying to help.
Yeah.
So this, I like this formula actually. I mean, some people would think it's tired and maybe even a little problematic, but you know, if the next movie he comes on this other little community and they're being harassed by bandits and he helps them out, I like that formula, especially when the person, you know, Miller, you know, I think each of his ideas are kind of interesting, like the oil refinery and there's a community around it, right? Or the here's a trade hub, you know. I think it's a, you know, it's kind of interesting where this person controls water and that's such a huge thing that he's
Yeah.
able to like turn a cult into it. That's kind of interesting too. So I like how interesting each of these individual episodic ideas is, and I'd like to see that again. That kind of
And they are very
interesting idea.
seminal. Like you watch them and you're like, this is kind of tropey, but it's like, no, he came up with a lot of these tropes.
Yeah, right.
Like they started with in a lot of ways I mean, post-apocalyptic films were around long before
Oh, and books
he
too.
was
Yeah.
doing this, but a lot of the stuff that we like and a lot of the quality items that are in post-apocalyptic now,
And the
he came
aesthetic,
up with.
the
Yeah,
aesthetic specifically.
yeah.
Right.
He
So
sort
yeah.
of created a genre in a way, and
Yeah.
that genre is feral Australian children. I am dead serious about this. Like, look into it. If you find feral children in like a post-apocalyptic movie or a sci-fi movie, they're always Australian for some reason.
Mm,
I mean, often because they filmed it in Australia, I guess, but it's very weird.
the feral child ate my dingo, I guess.
But there we go.
Let's turn that around. Okay.
Yeah.
So we've taken a lot of time to talk about this, and you didn't really get to talk about your week except for the
I
mice.
got a
Was that
couple.
the big thing
I
that
don't have a
happened? Or
lot to talk about, but I do have things I want to hit. First, I want to stop though. So you haven't been watching Acolyte,
no?
the new Star Wars?
I I would like to, but
I
there's all
know
kind.
jack about it.
Yeah, we'd like to watch it.
Here's what I know about it. Roku started advertising it to me, and I was like, "Really? Another Star Wars? Whatever." And then YouTube passed a video by me that said something about Episode 3 breaks the Star Wars universe,
Hmm.
and I didn't watch that video either, so I don't know. But so I'll be very curious as to your take because I sure as shit ain't gonna watch it.
I do want to
Uh,
watch it, but it'll probably be a
yeah.
long time.
Um, I don't have a lot. Just a couple things. Finished Dead Boy Detectives. It's not a lot to say. It's good. Did you
Hmm.
like Sandman? You like Dead Boy Detective is not exactly the same, but if you like Sandman, you like it.
I
You don't
agree.
like Sandman, you might not like it.
Yeah, I
It's
agree with
good.
that. Yeah.
It's solid. I hope it gets a second season. I think it will because I think it's done well. I don't think it's been officially announced, but it's good. I want more. It's happy. Um, we watched a movie. I This happens a lot lately where I'll watch one of these list videos about like 10 times such and such happened, and it'll remind me of a movie that I'm like, oh yeah, I never saw that. Should watch that. And in this case, I was like, oh, I never knew much about this movie, but it sounds like the kind of movie Trish really likes, and I also do. In particular, Trish likes con movies and grift movies, and I also like them, heist movies, things like that.
Sure, sure.
And so we watched the 2006 joint, Lucky Number 11.
No, I haven't seen that.
Let me walk you through this a little bit. It is first and foremost, I'd say a crime movie, but there are heist and con elements to it. From 2006, it has in sizable roles. Everybody I'm about to list is sizable roles. Josh Hartnett, Bruce Willis, and I was also like, it's 2006. This was before his diagnosis. He probably made this movie because he actually wanted to, so that's nice. Lucy Liu, Ben Kingsley, Morgan Freeman, Stanley Tucci. And
Hmm.
Danny Aiello has a real small part. There's a few other people you'll know in it, but like huge cast. It's fine. I believe the general rating is around the 50s. I'm like, that's fair. It's not a bad movie. It's not. Here's the deal. It is a decent movie that thinks it's an incredible movie. It has so many twists and turns that it gets a little ridiculous, and it has dialogue that is so like whoever wrote this was clearly a fan of Aaron Sorkin, but not as talented as Aaron. Like it really thinks the dialogue is smart, and what it actually is just not any way humans have ever talked. And it's just so smug.
Yeah.
Um, but it's not bad, and it's a fun time if you like those kind of like this one involves like mob bosses fighting each other, and then there's a whole deal, and it's not bad. I recommend it, but it's not great. But it's not a bad time. And actually, it's Lucy Liu in a very different role to what she usually plays, which is kind of fun to see. And Lucy Liu in a good role. I love Lucy Liu. I know what she is capable of. I would say the large majority of her work has sucked.
Mm.
It's not necessarily her fault. Is maybe the projects she picks or what. But most Lucy Liu things I don't enjoy. And this one I did enjoy her in it. Um,
Okay, good.
I do really like it. I mean, I'm still a staunch fan of Elementary and her in it specifically. Um, but anyway, so yeah, that was fun. And then let's do real quick here. And I am so late to the game on this, and I know this. Our listeners have talked about this. Azure Talent in particular, I know has mentioned this. Maybe Jazz, I don't know. Other people may have also, but I know Azure Talent did. This we get this a lot where there's a thing we want to watch, and we're both like, "Oh, we should watch that sometime." And then we like forget about it, or frequently I'm like, I guess we weren't that interested because we're not bothering. And then like years later, Trisha's like, "Have you heard of this thing?" And I'm like, "Yes, I have. We wanted to watch it a long time ago." She's like, "Really?" And so we had one of these because she watched it without me. And then she's like, "I think Tony might like this." And I'm like, "Yeah." We're watching Reservation Dogs.
Oh,
Had
hmm.
you seen Reservation Dogs? I can't remember.
Oh, years ago. Years
Yeah, yeah,
ago.
yeah. It's on Hulu. I think it's done. I mean, it is done. I think it got 3 seasons. It's good. It's real good.
Maybe we should get back to watching that.
We've watched like 2 episodes so far, and it has Taika Waititi is an exec producer on it, and it's got his stank on it in a way. Like there's a vibe, but he is clearly not heavily involved, which makes sense because this is about Indigenous American peoples, and that would be a weird place for Taika Waititi to get involved in. But he has helped facilitate this, and it's a good time. It's very bittersweet because it's rough stuff. It's the realities of living on an Indian reservation, but it's
Yeah.
also goofy and funny and has just great. It has that offbeat, I want to say Northern Exposure vibe for some reason.
Yeah.
Um, Probably because I think Graham Greene might be involved in both, but I don't know. Uh, yeah, we're really liking it. So if any of you out there are listening and haven't watched that, I would recommend it. Uh, Reservation Dogs, good time.
I do want to say we did also watch Top Gun Maverick.
And
I didn't like it.
did you ever watch the original Top Gun?
No,
Me neither.
and I
I also
wouldn't
didn't
like.
watch Maverick.
I'm pretty sure I wouldn't like it. I only watched it out of sheer curiosity. I heard from so many people who I didn't expect. I was like, oh yeah, this is actually pretty good. So I thought, okay, I'm going to see this to see what the fuss is about. I think I do understand why a broad spectrum of people liked it, like all over the political spectrum, all over the whatever spectrum. But it's not my kind of thing because it is too similar to the original, which I never saw because I knew I would hate it, and everything I've ever heard about tells me I would hate it. So it's like, yeah, I don't like this. So I didn't like it, but I get why other people did.
I
I
keep thinking I should watch the first one just again, sort of for the like history and to understand
I
the
kind of think that
landscape to a
sometimes too, but I
degree.
just really don't want to.
Um,
I just really don't want to watch it.
the new one seems boring to me.
It was boring. It was really boring. And
Um,
it was like you were supposed to care about Tom Cruise's character, I think, because you saw the original and you had nostalgia or something, which I didn't have. So that just didn't do it for me.
I gotta say, I not that I watch a lot of Tom Cruise movies, not because of him, but just because he does things that I'm not interested in usually.
Me too.
But also, again, when I watched that Brooke Shields documentary, um, it came up and reminded me what an asshole he was to her
Mm.
about postpartum depression, and that he's really kind of a nutcase, and so I'm kind of off him even more than usual right now.
Well, yeah, like Mission Impossible, the first Mission Impossible, I hated it because it started out like the TV show, and you had this team, and they were doing all this stuff, and then everybody gets killed until there's only one person left. And I thought, you just basically in the first 5 minutes of this film destroyed the whole premise of the original TV show, and now I'm supposed to care just about you by yourself. I mean, he gets some help, right? But it's like,
Oh yeah, no, there eventually he gets sort of a new team, but yeah.
yeah, but it's not the same. And it's like, this is dumb. And I did try to see a couple more, well, maybe just one more. And I thought, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. There was one scene in the second one, I think, where he walks into a scene in slow motion and doves are flying and all this stuff. I thought, this is gross. I can't watch this garbage. And I've never really watched
There's
any of it since.
there's a scene in Lucky Number 11 where there is some discussion over who is the best James Bond. And for some reason, out of fucking nowhere, Trish comes at me while we're sitting around with our friends having had dinner. We're sitting in their house, and she just turns to me and is like, "By the way, Roger Moore." And I was like, "Fuck off, Roger Moore." And again, it's definitely Sean Connery, and I hated Sean Connery as a person, but he's definitely the best James Bond. And the reason Pierce Brosnan isn't, who I would say, is because Pierce Brosnan is not James Bond. Pierce Brosnan is Remington Steele, so he can't be the best James Bond because he's fucking Remington Steele. But if he hadn't been Remington Steele, he would be the best Bond. But it's definitely Sean Connery. And then I had to stop and say, for the record, I hate James Bond. I wish they wouldn't make any more, and I haven't seen one since the rebooted Casino Royale, and I don't intend to. But back me up against the wall, it's fucking Sean Connery. So that was pretty funny. Also, from Reservation Dogs, we have already started saying to each other when it's time to leave or do something, we say Skoden. And then the other one says Studis, which is their little lines that they say. Oh.
We're gonna have to. How old is that show?
It's not that old. I think it had 3 seasons, and I think it ended a couple years ago, but I don't actually know. It's not that old.
I don't remember. I mean, that's the kind of thing we would watch, and that we'd keep watching. I mean, there wouldn't have been any reason to stop, but I just don't. I don't remember.
Maybe it had a gap. I mean, maybe it was right around COVID. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe I can't remember.
But we're liking it. I am in case it hasn't been clear before. It's actually really funny. I'm going to go to therapy tomorrow for the first time in like 6 or 7 weeks because of scheduling things.
Oh.
And she's going to ask how I am. And it's going to be a complicated question because the short answer is pretty bad. And the long answer is pretty dang good. Because I have been wrestling with some depression lately. But do you know why I've been wrestling with some depression lately? Because I hurt my back and I've had chronic pain and I've been unable to do a lot of things, which sucks and would make you depressed. It's like a reason to be depressed.
Yep.
Outside of that, the medications I'm on have really stabilized my mood.
Oh,
and
good.
It's great. And like when I feel happy or sad, it's because happy and sad things are happening and it's awesome.
Right.
But one of the things that came up is I still need to finish rewatching second season of Ted Lasso so we can do third season. And I kind of stopped because I was not in a place of like I would feel really bad after watching an episode because it just got me in my feels enough. And just today I started watching again because I am comfortable enough with not, projecting my emotions or pulling emotions from other places that it was fun. And so I'm very happy about that. But yeah, it's going to be really weird because I'm like, I've been really depressed and I'm kind of happy about it because I'm depressed for a reason.
For a reason, yep.
And it also is really making me wonder if this depression aspect, because the anxiety's been around forever, and I know that. But there's a lot of things I blamed on the anxiety that now seem to be gone. But the anxiety is definitely still there. Like I'm not sure there's a combination of medication that would take away all my anxiety because a lot of my anxiety is just muscle memory now.
Oh, sure.
Like it's just built into who I am and how I function. But it's been somewhat uncomfortable. But so many things that I'm like, oh, it's just the anxiety getting out of control. I'm like, I think it was actually depression. And now I'm pretty good on depression as not being a thing. So that's nice. So yeah, I'm getting back into Ted Lasso. So any second now, we'll probably watch third season of that. I'm weirdly not. I mean, I'm going to do it and I want to do it. I'm not excited for it. I know I'm more than anybody in the world. That show changed my life and I loved it. It is still probably my favorite show of all time. It was what it was to me at the time. I think I've moved on.
Oh, okay.
Which happens with almost everything. I don't rewatch a lot of stuff and things like that. I definitely did that with The Good Place. I moved on over time.
It's not you, Ted Lasso. It's me. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but it's just I'm a different person all the time, and I get what I get out of things, and then because that's the thing. It's when it moves my mind, moves my heart. Not just like it's artistic, but like it does something to me, and it makes me think about things, and I think about them, and then I come to conclusions or resolutions, and then I don't really need to go back to it again. Now, Ted Lasso is quite funny, and that is nice, and I watch it, and I'm not unhappy watching it, but I'm like 13, and especially because I know a couple things I shouldn't know about third season that aren't great. And in general, I don't know that people hated third season, but the consensus seems to be that it was not a great send off for the show. And so I'm a little bit hesitant about that, but we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, we are super over time. If you want to tell me how I might have saved my mice, don't do that. I'll feel bad. But if you want to talk about other things or tell me that I'm a good person for having cared for baby mice for 48 hours, or if you want to talk about any of the shows, or anyway, if you want to do any of that shit, go to the blog, magicaltalkinghat.com, or comment on YouTube. But here's a weird one. If you want to send us an email, do that. Please. Please. Begging you. We can't do this for very long. William and I do not have interesting enough lives to continue this show without emails. I promise you this. And his life is only getting less interesting by the moment. I should rephrase that. Your life is getting more interesting, but the amount you can talk about it is shrinking significantly.
Yeah, right.
And my life is just what it is. So I'm going to talk a lot more about porn if you guys don't get on this. So go right, themagicaltalkinghat@gmail.com. And we're actually recording this on Monday. This is a new thing I've discovered. So like we recorded on Monday, and then Tuesday the mouse shit happened through to Thursday, and it was over that morning when I posted the like there's such a delay now in things happening and when it gets out there. Because like it happened the day after we recorded, which was 2 days before it posted, which was a whole week before. Like, there's now a delay between the things that happen and the time I talk about it, and it goes on the internet. So like, people aren't gonna. By the time people hear the mouse thing, it will have been like over a week old.
Over a week,
That's always
yeah.
weird to me. Yeah. Anyway, so keep listening and watching. Because if you don't, we stop to exist. That's not how that's said.